welcome to the Point. It is Monday, September 6, 2021. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the YouTube channel, the website, GBN TV, Classic 105, and Party Grenada and Go To Fed Facebook pages. Always appreciate your listenership and your viewership. Thank you very much for your time. Let's get straight into this morning's discussion. Joining me virtually this morning is Farmers and Fisher Folk representative in the Senate, the Honorable Roderick St. Clair, and his this morning appearance comes at a time when there are some concerns from members of the farming and fishing community with the new regulations to curb the spread of COVID-19. But first, let's say good morning and welcome to Senator St. Clair. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us once again.
Good morning, Blossom. Good morning to all our farmers, fishers, processors, all my constituents, and of course, everyone in Grenada and the diaspora. I want to wish you a very good day and a very good week, and thank you once again for us having this important dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it comes at a time when...
the rest of staff of GBN.
Thank you very much. Just over the weekend, the Ministry of Health announced some measures to curb the spread of COVID-19 in Grenada following what has been a tumultuous few weeks. It was on Saturday evening, the Royal Grenada Police Force hosting their news conference about what is required of members of the public. A feature pointed out was that farmers and fisher folk, they would be considered essential services, but they also have to take into consideration the rules and regulations. So have the farmers reached out to you as yet in terms of their concerns for what the next, at least, let's say 2 weeks would mean for them and the trade that they ply?
Yeah, very good. In fact, even before Saturday, since last week, I guess, the country in itself have been feeling the temperature, and they have been reaching out to me and say, hey, Senator, what about access to our lands? What about access to our farms or animals and so on? And of course, as I said to them, let's wait. Yes, we need to anticipate, we need to be prepared, but let's not, just get off the hook and get all emotional about things, and let us handle things in a proper way. And so I've been creating my dialogue, of course, within the Ministry of Agriculture, within the Ministry of Fisheries, as my focal point of contact. And a lot of them that look, okay, you know the situations of the last time, how do we treat? These are the sort of sentiments that are coming through. So we need to keep, as a unit, tempered and manage the expectations, but at the same time, have this thing done properly such that it don't create problem. Because most time, Blossom, you have problems when there is lack of information flow, lack of clarity. And I find difficulty as an individual dealing with those things. I must say that as the week proceeded, they got more anxious. And I have been in discussion with, of course, both ministers of Fisheries and Agriculture, as well as the PSCs, the Chief Agriculture Officer, Mr. Tom Stoney. Yesterday we've been in dialogue on how we see these different measures and how do the farmers and fishers and so on need to fit in within all of this. I've also been in discussion with also even some of the fisheries extension and start looking at the issues. I think we are making good progress from where I sit. And the police, I think, have done a wonderful job in explaining that you have your ID, you're going about your normal business. This is the most important thing. The second part is that we want to also recognize to the authority for maybe the first time, and I hope it's not revoked or repealed, that our whole agriculture sector, farmers and fishers, are recognized as an essential service. I think the farmers should be very proud for this recognition, and we must now act with honor and dignity for having been so recognized. Meaning that, as you rightfully say, and as the police would have said, even if you are a bona fide farmer, you have a farmer's ID, as the case may be, I don't expect you to be in such period when you should be in a way of alacrity, as you say, moving to your business. liming and hanging and doing things that is not towards what you're supposed to be doing, then that creates a problem for not only one individual, but for the whole sector, and then we can lose the gains that we have made. So I am making a special appeal in this regards, that we conduct our business in a purposeful way, for which we are given the permission to do, for which we have lobbied for and have cried for. And now that we get it, we must treat it with dignity and with purpose, so that we can able to provide food for the nation, so that we can able to keep the country's economy running by the way of our exports, by the way of our food security, and all of those things. And I want us to not lose sight of that, our farmers, our fishers, please. Only last night I got a call and it was said, what about those fishers who are going to be out at night? Because depending on the type of fish you do, for example, understanding hind and so on, sometimes you need to go out in the night to get it. So is understanding all of those sort of details, determine. Of course, sometimes you cannot get every single thing you want. And so, as I also say to some of our farmers, look, despite all of this accommodation, we need to still look at our own safety and the safety of others. So is it absolutely necessary that you must go? So for example, I was speaking to the CMAS farmers last night, and the question is it absolutely necessary that you have to go out on Saturday? I know normally Saturday is a day that they go out and take care of the production. But let's suppose there was a lot of rain. We know the issue of the Sargassum invasion. In 2 days, what this can cause. So you may realize that make it become very necessary. So these are the type of things. And I think that allowance in the whole system also eases up the government on the back end, such that, you may say, well, government have been out of income. I'm not able to go to my lands. I lost 3 goats. Yes, you may say this is an act of God in a certain way. How do we find stimulus package and so on? So I think we have to act responsible in our sector at the same time. And this is what I want to encourage us to do. At the same time, Blossom, that is one part of the protocol. There are many other parts. So, for example, we need to make sure that we follow the issues of sanitation, the issue of distancing, the issue of wearing our mask. All those are part of the regulation. The regulation is not only to get a pass to go on the farm. These are other parts of the regulation. So I want us to not lose sight of that. We can't want to like one part and don't like the other part. It's all one package. So even for your workers and for your family by extension, because you can't want to be doing the right thing in your home and not doing the right thing when you get to your farm with your workers, because they also need to able to take care of their own family in terms of safety. They need to ensure that your farm is producing proper product. And also when you go out to sell your product, you need to ensure that you operate in that manner so as to sustain your business. So I don't want us in any farm to lose sight of those things. Additionally, the matter which I have spoken on and previously in several ways, and only last week I had another release on that, the issue of the vaccination. This is a position of the government. It's not the only option. As you say, people say you have to eat healthy and you should always have your immune system intact and so on. Of course, you need to do those things. But of course, we know the issue of vaccine would help in various ways to build your immunity and your resistance and all those things. I think we had Dr. Beggs with us the last time giving some explanation I brought him on with myself so as to provide more information to my constituents. And of course, I know we expect him to join us sometime later today again. And I raised this, that there are different concerns. Persons have different issues and so on. I think the time we spend into debate, we should use to discuss with a physician and get information that is pertinent to you. Because at the end of the day, you may spend a whole 2 hours debating. At the end of the day, the information that has, but I won't call it information, what was discussed didn't put you as an individual in a better position to make a decision as to whether or not you should take the vaccine or not. So I would say engage with people that you know. Even the same within the medical fraternity. There are persons who are for and against for all different type of reasons. In life, you would find those things. But at the end of the day, you have to make a choice. and you have to look at what is the best choice. And with everything, you would have to weigh. Now, there are some persons who have definite challenges, and of course, the medical discussion would happen. But of course, they would say, well, you are more predisposed, and so on. So I would say that this is what is available to us. We have two options of the vaccine, and individuals need to get as much information, because getting sick, we see what is happening. But as Dr. Sean says also, despite all of that, we need to make sure we do the basic things: sanitizing, the distancing, the mask. And that is all we're asking. Please.
In terms of the requirements under the new regulations going forward, at least for the next 2 weeks or so that the measures are in place for, I remember one of the points made during the police news conference was that farmers need to be able to present their ID. And then there's the argument that not all farmers have the ID. How will we be dealing with that instance? And for the farmers who don't have ID, how can they get?
Yeah, well, you see, you're going in an area that is is a very disturbing area, and I'll tell you why. It's a disturbing area from different angles. One, I know the Ministry of Agriculture in particular has the capacity to do those. I know they've been working along and producing, but at the same time, you would hear farmers saying that they're having delays in getting that done. I cannot tell you in the last, say, month, 2 months, what if there are existing challenges in terms of getting this done. But farmers have to mind their business. And IDs are an important thing. And so you need to ensure that if you are getting problems and challenges, then there are ways to report it and get that matter resolved. That's one angle. From the other angle, the fishermen, I know, have a big problem. It's my understanding that for many years, the machine for doing the IDs has been a big challenge. In fact, only about 2 weeks ago, I have an assignment that the fisherman has given to me, that what happened to the captaincy ID that they haven't received for how long? Because when they're out at sea, COVID or no COVID, if depending on how they have been monitored or held up by different coast guards, they have to be able to show the ID as proof of the location, where they're from, and the profession, etc. And that is a big issue. In fact, when I understand that problem, I say, but the Ministry of Agriculture has the capacity. So I reach out to the Minister, David, and they say, well, look, they can facilitate that process if fisheries don't have the capacity right now. I understand that it's an order to have it resolved. But why is that is happening? The farmers, the fishers in this case, doesn't have an ID. So I believe that the Ministry of Agriculture has reached out and willing to do this. And I think that the Ministry of Fisheries need to move swiftly in the meantime to get that done there, such that that matter could be resolved, not just for COVID, but in a general way, whilst we wait on this machine that need to come in. We have to be able to collaborate. Government is one. It's not one here and one over in Tobago or someplace like that. It's one country. And we have to be able to use resources and collaborate and so on. I am urging the two ministries to act swiftly in this matter while our farmers are complaining. So that's one angle. Now, the other part of it relates to the ID part. And what I interpret from the police and in saying that as essential services, you can also provide IDs in the cases where there is no IDs exists. And so I have been speaking again to the ministries over the weekend. And so, for example, the poultry industry, they are working on an ID for the Poultry Association. And so in the meantime, how can they facilitate that the Ministry of Agriculture some sort of ID that they can use as an association for the bona fide operators? The CMOS producers, they are new, coming in. They have maybe close to 100 CMOS producers in Grenada, very active. They are in the midst of forming a national organization, Mr. Hector and his team. And so they would also need some sort of ID, but they are under fisheries. But we know what happening with fisheries. So the question is, what can be done to facilitate that process? What I've suggested to them in the meantime over the weekend is, I think, based on what I understand from the police end, suffice of a physical ID. Let us collect information, the name of the farmer, the phone number, the address where they live, and the address of where the farm or the enterprise is, whether it's in Grand Bacolet or wherever it is. So at least as a membership, you can provide a sort of index of your people, and there is some communication in the meantime that you can see. So if, as the police say, someone a bona fide CMAS person, and they're generally going out, you could easily verify that. That is not, Grenada is a very small place, and we must not lose sight of this thing. We must not lose sight of that. What we need to do is that we as individuals need to be doing the right thing and not causing problems for others because of the way that we perform and function. So within today, continuing tomorrow, we are going to work on mechanisms that would be facilitating for all of these things. I think we have enough time to address those matters. But if you don't have to move, the best thing is not to move. I think that is the moral of the story. You know, I think if you don't have to, don't move.
Is there a concern or a fear that the way things are unfolding with COVID-19, including the restrictions, that Grenada's agriculture production can suffer?
I don't get that feeling. I don't get that feeling that would cause it to suffer. I think once the farmers can operate, they will operate. Because to tell you the truth, Blossom, to tell you the truth, the farmers will tell you that a day like that, they will go in the farm and be there because that's where they normally would be. That is their whole, that is what's going to bring the sort of gratitude to them versus not able to go. So the suffering would be a lack of access more than be able to access it. In terms of the markets, of course, our ports are open, and I say we have to look at the whole package. The ports are open, the airports are open, so that we can able to trade, we can able to export as normal, which is very good. You know, if the ports are closed, then that's a big issue, you know, in terms of exports. So it means that also visitors would come into the country still, even if it's takeaway, but at least at the restaurant, at least food can be cooked and so on. So I would say no, construction continues as normal, of course, following the practices, because normally when there is a low in construction, you would find several individuals going to the farms, right? So that we will not see much maybe impact from there. So I wouldn't say that it would negatively impact it. I think that people are speaking of eating more healthy. They need to beef up with their different nutrients and vitamins. So I think that the relevance of agriculture and the mode at which it's set at right now, mentally, is good. Now, there are other challenges and issues that we have, and I don't want to go into that, and those are bigger issues. But as it stands there, that moral acceptance, it gives a high level of motivation, which I see that having a positive light.
I was just about to let you know Dr. Beggs was in the waiting room, but he seems to have left. Okay. So there was another question I was going to ask in relation to fisher folk. Is this lockdown affecting our fisher folk as well?
Yes, it will affect.
Not lockdown. Sorry for using lockdown, but the restrictions. Yes, go ahead.
You mean the new restrictions? You mean
the new restrictions? Yes.
Yeah, the new restrictions would affect them because remember the hours of even for the sale of the products. That's the other part we have to look at because it means that our vendors And whether it's fish vendors or vegetable vendors, they have different times to operate now. So they would have to operate in a shorter space of time. So that definitely will be a factor. As I said, the night fishing, I know there are folks who go out on the trawlers and go out for 3, 4, 5 days. This, I'm not too sure how that would affect significantly, but I think once they go out and they're out doing their business and they take care of themselves, I don't foresee that should be a major issue. The export planes will be working as normal. So that I don't see as an issue, but the local sales could be affected somewhat because of less time. Sometimes even the guys who do the jacks, they will go around the country and blow the horn, the shell and so on. They have a shorter time within which to operate. I mean, even us, even at the Nutmeg Association ourselves, and I guess maybe Coco similarly, this morning, just before you had to go through our internal briefing as to, how we would rearrange or we would adjust little hours here and there, but not to seriously impact the farmer, but to also allow our workers to be able to access the transport to go back home on time, and also to allow for internal processes to take place. And so it's a balancing act, and nobody wants to be out because, for example, if we are shut down in any way, then our nutmeg farmers, which depend on the nutmeg, is almost like a currency. That is traded. You have Bitcoin. Nutmeg is a currency because they bring the nutmeg, they collect cash, and they can do this, and that's basically the farmer's bank. And if they cannot do that, then how do they go and buy food and all of those things? So this is a very significant thing for us, and we're very happy that ourselves can able to have this industry continuing, and of course following the protocols as much as possible within our workers. And this is something that internally I started first thing this morning, doing different briefings on, because we have to ensure that our 4,000-5,000 farmers from that end can continue to survive. So I'm working on one end, but I also have to ensure that I take care of internal businesses because it's all part of my constituents.
On that note, Senator St. Clair, let's take a break and then we're going to come back and continue the discussion. This is To The Point on Classic and GBN. We'll be right back.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Feel good facts. Avoid the most common causes of spreading the flu. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue, dispose of it straight away, and either wash your hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
This is a plastic bag. From February 1st, these bags are not to be used when shopping for food. So here's what you should do. Refuse plastic. Instead, bring your own reusable shopping bags and say goodbye to plastic. Choose to refuse plastic. Walk with your reusable shopping bags and help protect pure Grenada from plastic pollution. A message from the Ministry of Climate Resilience.
Grenada's chief medical officer has ordered that all confirmed positive COVID-19 individuals, their contacts, and members of their household must remain in quarantine or isolation for 14 days. Anyone who fails to comply with this order will be in breach of the Public Health COVID-19 Regulations 2020 and is guilty of an offense. Upon summary conviction, that person will be liable to a penalty of up to $10,000. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back to The Point. This morning, we started the discussion with farmer and fisherfolk representative in the Senate, the Honorable Roderick Clair. And right now, we are joined by Dr. Donald Beggs, and he is a medical professional. And he, what I would be inquiring about really is the vaccine and COVID-19 and other things that we can do to continue to stay as safe as we can. So thank you and good morning again, Dr. Beggs. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Blossom. Good morning, Senator.
Morning, Doc.
Happy to have you. So, Dr. Beggs, it has been interesting past few weeks here for us in Grenada with the COVID-19 situation unfolding. Just this morning, I understand Minister of Health Nicholas Steele announced 4 additional deaths to Grenada's tally, and that could bring us to, if my memory serves me correctly, I think 8 deaths since March 2020. With the situation unfolding, I want to really zone in on how we can help ourselves stay as COVID-free as possible. We are up to 1,200 plus confirmed cases from March 2020 to Saturday. How can we ensure that we are not among the additional cases that I'm sure will be announced in the coming days?
Okay, thanks again, Blossom. Thanks again, Senator, for allowing me to share this platform with you.
Yeah.
Share some perspectives on the current situation. And I would like to start by what the WHO Director General says. He says that COVID anywhere is a threat to everywhere. So we all have a stake in this. And it's all hands on deck and full court press. And we all have to do a part in trying to combat this pandemic. And you ask what you could do? 2 things you could do. You could wear a mask properly and wherever applicable. And if you're eligible, take the immunization, get immunized. Now, specific to Grenada, yes, since we last spoke, there has been a change in the paradigm, a change in the pattern. That is to say, we've had an increase in active cases. We've had an increase in deaths and hospitalizations. And sympathies goes out to all the bereaved, family of the bereaved. My sympathies go out to them. And we've also seen the uptake in the Delta virus, which brings several changes to the previous variants we had. For the acute phase, for this immediate period, public health measures and personal hygiene matters are what is going to help us to blunt the curve a little bit, to get a little temporary control of the situation. So again, we have to first make sure we wear a mask properly, not just wear a mask, wear it properly and wear it wherever it's applicable. A mask is applicable anytime you're in a closed environment or in a public place, in a supermarket, you're in a bank, in a post office, or if you're at home and you're not with your usual household family members, a mask should be worn. If somebody's within arm's length of you, you should have a mask on. Remember long ago when we were kids and we would line up and they would say, everybody arm's length apart. So that's a good measure. If somebody's within arm's length of you, in terms of conversing with you, you should have a mask on. And the other thing is you have to keep your hands sanitary. You have to avoid public places as much as you could and gathering. I mean, we know life goes on and things have to get done. But if it's absolutely not necessary, try not to congregate too much, try not to be in big gatherings, and try to follow whatever Dr. Charles and the other COVID guideline people have set out for you. Then we have to do a contact tracing. We have to do our quarantining of patients who are active infections until they're no longer infectious. So that's going to help us blunt the curve and get the cases down. Now, the other aspect of it, with the Delta, the implications of the Delta is we have seen more infectiveness of the virus. It's easier to contract the virus. The prior strains, there's a measure called the R0. That means how many people, if one person have it, how many people you could spread it to. The previous measure was 1 to 3. But the Delta, you could probably spread it to about 7 or 8 people. So it's more infectious, it leads to more hospitalizations. And what's new is we see an uptick in kids as well. We see even kids as young as 4 years old being hospitalized with the Delta. And they are unable to get immunized because there's no vaccine ready for them. And the other aspect of the Delta is we've seen that there are some breakthrough cases with people who were previously vaccinated. Now, the numbers are very small, but there are some breakthrough cases. But what you should remember is there are 3 separate studies. There's a study in Israel, there's a study in the United States, there's a study in the United Kingdom. All 3 studies show that you still have robust protection against severe disease and deaths with the Delta and the vaccine. So that's a little synopsis of what we can do for now. In the immediate phase, you need to really follow public health measures and personal hygiene measures, because that's what's going to blunt the curve a little bit to give us a control of the virus, to decrease the spread in the community. And for the long term, the vaccine is still applicable because it's going to protect you against severe disease and death. But the vaccine is going to take a little while to work. It's going to take 2 weeks to work. So in the meantime, these are the measures you have to take.
Speaking of vaccine, right now Grenada has 2 COVID-19 vaccines available, the AstraZeneca and the Pfizer-BioNTech. There are people who have not gotten shots as yet, thinking about it, and for those who may be not confused but considering which one should take, can you look at, or can you compare both vaccines? Compare both vaccines so that people can maybe make up their mind as to which one they would like to take, which jab they'd like to get.
Sure. Well, the advice we give is to take whatever vaccine that you have. Take whatever is available. The truth is there's no head-to-head trial comparing all these vaccines to see which one is better than the other. They all have their own little caveats of what works, what doesn't work, and what kind of the complications. But there's no true head-to-head trial showing that this vaccine is definitely better than this one. So you should take, the advice is take whatever vaccine you have available. Luckily, you have 2. If I was to say, I would say that the Pfizer should be more applicable for the younger people, especially younger females. So if you're a teenager, as a matter of fact, Pfizer is the only vaccine indicated for teenagers is Pfizer, from the 12 to 15 age group. So I would say teenagers, definitely the Pfizer, and the younger people, under 40, definitely consider Pfizer vaccine. But in the long run, there were 3 studies I cited. They all show that in terms of protecting against severe disease and hospitalization and death, they're almost equal in terms of the effectiveness. Good, robust protection. There are little caveats in terms of possible potential complications. But apart from that, the whole story is they both work against severe disease and death, and you should take whatever is available to you.
What makes Pfizer safer for children to take compared to AstraZeneca?
Well, the Pfizer has the emergency use authorization for age groups 12 to 15. The AstraZeneca doesn't have that. So straight off the bat, that'll be one difference here. The other thing is for the AstraZeneca, there was a inquiry into whether or not it was linked to complication of thrombosis in younger females. So that's why I say that if you're a younger person, I think most of the developed countries are using the AstraZeneca for the above 40 age group. So if you're under 40, then you should go with the Pfizer, and you're concerned about clots. If you again, these are very, very, very rare events. I mean, I'm just mentioning them in the interest of full disclosure, but they're very, very rare events. And if you're in a younger age group, under 40, female, then maybe the Pfizer probably better for you.
If I got a first shot with AstraZeneca, and I'm due for my second shot, can I take Pfizer? Can I mix them, or do I have to stick to one, what I call brand? Right.
So the official thing is you should not mix them. There's some countries that are mixing them, but they're mixed in alike. Pfizer is a messenger RNA type vaccine. AstraZeneca is a viral vector type vaccine. So there's a fundamental difference between the two mechanisms there. But they could be mixed. There's some people who've done it, but officially the advice is that you should stick to one brand.
I also want to ask, Doc, from a medical perspective, what I call self-medication. And just this morning I was having a conversation with a nutritionist in relation to what I call concoctions. We are people that like to, put things together and come up with remedies, and we say that it deals with cold, it may deal with COVID, it may help fight cancer, and so on and so forth. Any advice for the people who want to use natural means, natural recipes and remedies and ingredients to fight, whether it's COVID or any other illness they may have?
Yeah, well, I'm all for natural remedies, but the trouble is, you gotta know how much you're doing and what you're mixing it with, because there's a potential for interaction, drug-to-drug interaction with some of these herbal remedies and with your other type of medicines. That's one. And then we don't know the right dose that we should use them in. But I'm all for that. But if you're doing that to help boost your immune system, you should do it in addition to taking the vaccine and following public health guidelines. So if you're doing it, do it in addition to your vaccine, do it in addition to your public health guidelines, and do a little research. Make sure it's not interacting. There's no drug-to-drug interaction with the herbal stuff and what you're taking. And try to make sure you're doing the right dose, because it could lead to overdose and toxicities with your liver and with your kidneys. So you want to try to know exactly what you're doing.
Let's open the platforms for viewers and listeners now who may have comments, questions, queries, concerns. Landline number 435-2041. WhatsApp number, it's also 435-2041. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. And you can continue to post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on Facebook and YouTube. There was somebody on YouTube is stating, the only vaccine I trust is the Cuban vaccine. But Dr. Beggs, the Cuban vaccine, any one of them, they've not been given, if my memory serves me correctly, they've not been given whether it's emergency use or otherwise, or approved by the FDA as yet, correct? Sorry, Dr. Beggs, we're not hearing you. Unmute your phone. Go ahead.
Good. It's good, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm hearing you. Yeah.
So I think there's several vaccines being developed in Cuba, and I think they're already being used in the Cuban population. I'm not sure if it's WHO reviewed and approved for use to the rest of the world yet. I'm not sure about that one. But sure, I mean, if the Cuban vaccine is available and if it's approved, sure, let's use it. I think we should use all means of immunizations that we have, because I feel strong that immunization is the way that we should go over there.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Blossom. How are you this morning?
I'm good. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning to the senator and good morning to the doctor. Senator, I'm so happy, I must say, to hear your voice all the time. I think you're doing a very good job. My question is, where are the other senators? I don't see or hear them at all. Maybe they should come out and let me see them and know a little about them. However, regarding the vaccine, I took my vaccine very early, my whole family. And we have nothing against the vaccine. None of us. Oh yes, my grandson had terrible headache the night. That's when he had the first one. And morning he was okay. He went to school and all that. But the hesitance in the vaccine, I must say that the government, Minister of Health and the crew, they did and still doing an excellent job, and I'm grateful to them for that. But some Grenadians, Miss Blossom, is doing regarding the vaccine and saying, like, if they're doing the government a favor by taking the vaccine. I mean, the time that we get up and think that we're protecting ourselves and our family.
Okay.
If we do that first, then things will go better. Anyway,
Okay.
I could advise everybody to take the vaccine. Thank you. I don't know.
Thank you very much. Senator Sinclair? Dr.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. It's, both points she made were very good points. Kudos to the senator for doing a very good job. And people should do what they could to protect themselves and their families. I mean, I think wearing a mask is one of the most considerate things you could do, because you're not only protecting yourself, you're also protecting others. So you're showing that you want to protect yourself plus other human beings as well by wearing a mask. And of course, I mean, different masks have different levels of effectiveness, but as a general rule, wearing a mask will protect yourself plus protect people from you, just in the event that you might have an asymptomatic disease and spread it. Because remember again, COVID could be spread asymptomatically. So you may not have symptoms and may still be able to pass it on to somebody. So that's why wearing a mask and wearing it properly and wherever applicable is so important, because you can stop asymptomatic spread. The other thing is, what was the other point? She was saying that protecting the family. Now, kids less than 12, as I was saying, there's no vaccine approved for them. And here in the United States, you've seen almost a 4-time increase in the cases among kids. So the ones that are eligible to take the vaccine should take it to protect the kids, because the kids cannot take the vaccine. They have no vaccine for them, 12 and under. So the onus is on us to protect them by being vaccinated. So I like both points you made.
Could I, Blossom, an important point that you make, Dr. Beggs, and it's something that goes through my mind, that asymptomatic, and I would say maybe that latency during asymptomatic. So I may be a carrier, I would call it, having got myself having this virus 2-3 days going around, and I can spread it, but unknowingly. And this I think is the risk and the danger that makes it even more significant, that every move you make, you have to just be so cautious. That to me is the danger.
Right, sure. Because you can start spreading COVID up to about 2 days prior to displaying symptoms. So 2 days before you have any kind of a fever, any cough or anything, you can start spreading it around. Unknowingly, unintentionally. You don't want to do it, but you're doing it. So that's why people should get to the realization that they have to wear a mask when they're in public places, when they're in crowded areas, when they're invading somebody else's space. If you become more than an arm's length of somebody, you should wear a mask on. If you're at home and you have people who are not belonging to your usual household, I recommend you should also wear a mask. So mask wearing becomes very important, especially now to blunt the acute spread that we have.
Senator St. Clair, somebody is asking, if you don't have a farmer's ID, could you produce your nutmeg and cocoa books with a picture ID?
Yeah, I'm not the police, but I would say yes, that will work, because the photo shows that it's you and the nutmeg card, which is part of an enactment. I would say that should work. At the same time, though, I would encourage persons to still get the farmer's ID downstream, but that should work, that you are bona fide. The word bona fide would be covered within that context of justification of evidence, if you want to say that. Yeah, I'm not the police, but I think that should work.
Still with you, Senator St. Clair, before I go back to Dr. Begg. Somebody on Facebook is inquiring, Senator St. Clair, are you willing to bring a proposal to Parliament on behalf of fisher folk in St. Mark? They are the only parish on the state that does not have a jetty. Therefore, landing the catch is always a challenge, especially when the seas are not calm.
Yeah, well, in fact, very good point. Well, excellent. In fact, in my first encounter with meeting the Minister of Fisheries, I raised it. I was shocked that they have 3 landing sites in St. Mark, and there is no jetty. And the problem about that is not just the landing, but the boats now cannot come up. If you drive along, they will see the boats have to be pulled up on the stones, and it's crazy. I mean, so yes, fishers, I'm willing to work with you on that, and I would advise you perhaps the first way we can do is to have a petition the government, petition your MP, such that can be looked at. And so I'm ready and willing. You, Kenty, and the others up on that side there, I would engage you on that matter.
Let's go back to the landline. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning, Blossom. How are you?
I'm good.
And how was your weekend?
Not too bad. Go ahead.
That's nice. Doc, I want to ask the doctor a question, please. I need an answer. That if you get into the virus, right, you have to take the vaccine and the virus still attack you, what are the medications that you all have to give the patient? I need an answer to that, please. And secondly, is somebody passing out something to make certain raggedy statement on the radio and on the TV and taking loudspeaker and running up and down the road without telling the people how they would get over and what treatment they would be getting? I want to know that, please. There is something in the matter besides the person that we Grenadians want to know. Because the idea is you take the vaccine, you could still get the virus. Right. What is the meditation? Then you're still going out and you're bullying people and demanding people and begging people to take it. But you can't tell them what is the treatment they will be getting if they happen to go through the virus. Right? And then there is something, it must be something in the matter besides the person and Grenadian would like to know, especially me.
Thank you.
Have a good morning.
Thank you, caller. After Bex.
Okay, so first of all, to the caller, thanks for your question. So the vaccine is still, you're 5 times more likely to get infected with COVID if you're unvaccinated as compared to if you're vaccinated. So that's one point. The other point is you're 30 times more likely to get hospitalized if you're unvaccinated than if you're vaccinated. So the vaccine still protects you against getting COVID. With the Delta, it's a little bit less effective, but it still protects you against a COVID infection. Okay? Now, if you get the COVID with the vaccine, the possibility of death or severe disease is minimal. So you ask about treatment, hopefully you will not need any treatment. Now, as a general rule, there is only one or two things approved for the treatment of COVID. There's a lot of stuff on the internet, and people are using a lot of off-label medications, which I don't want to go into. But COVID itself is not treatable, it's not curable. It's just supportive disease. It's supportive care from a medical standpoint. So if you do get COVID with the vaccine, the overwhelming possibility is that you're going to get a mild disease that you could probably just manage symptomatically. If you do get a severe condition, then you may have to seek professional help. There's a few things that we available to use, but they have to be used under the hands of a doctor, not home remedies.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Doc. So if you have symptoms related to COVID, they don't treat COVID, but they treat the symptoms. Like if you have a fever, they would give you fever medication.
Right. So you have that, and there are two things that basically we use. We use a type of steroid called Decadron. That's the treatment that is proven to be most effective in terms of reducing mortality in the treatment of COVID. There's another drug called remdesivir, which helps with symptomatic care, not much with reduction of mortality. So these are the two main things that we use in terms of treatment, in addition to supporting you with fluids, with like you said, with anti-fever medicines. And if, God forbid, it comes to that, you need breathing support, then we have to send you to the ICU and put you in a machine. Hopefully no one comes to that. But that's it as far as COVID is concerned. That's why it's so important to emphasize prevention. Because the treatment modalities that we have now is not that good. And some of the stuff that they have on the internet are not proven. There are no trials saying if these things work or not, but people are saying that they work. And, I wouldn't encourage anybody to try them. So I wouldn't name them here because they're not approved by any of the recognized medical bodies.
I've also seen reports, Dr. Beggs, that both AstraZeneca and Pfizer, there have been studies that show that they lose their efficacy after, I think it was 6 months or so. Does that mean it's not effective anymore, or just that it loses a little bit of steam?
Right. So the latter, it loses a little bit of steam. What they've seen is a diminution in the titers of the antibodies that's produced. And that translates into the fact that you can get breakthrough infections. But I just mentioned that there are 3 studies in England, in Israel, and in the United States that shows that it's still effective against hospitalization and death. That didn't change one bit. Now, what they're doing here in the US is giving booster shots to the people who've had Pfizer and have been having it for more than 8 months. Especially to the immunosuppressed people and the essential workers, just to boost the titers in the event that eventually you may lose enough antibodies so that you may get severe disease. But the take-home message is the vaccine still works. It still works against severe disease and death. And it's still effective even in preventing infection, 5 times more so than if you're unvaccinated, and 30 times more so in terms of hospitalization. So yes, the antibody titers have diminished a little bit, especially with Pfizer, but the protection you get from hospitalization and death remains constant. It's still pretty robust, 90 plus. The symptomatic efficacy depends on which study you look at. It could be about 40 to 60%.
And somebody's inquiring what is in the booster shot.
The booster shot is the same as the original shot. The same as the original shot. And when it comes to Pfizer, all you have the main thing in the Pfizer shot is the mRNA molecule wrapped up in a little bit of fat because it's very degradable, and some preservatives. You have saline, and you have salt water, you have some sucrose and some alcohol.
And before we wrap, Doc, and to the people who are about to get vaccinated, any tips on how we can lessen the after effects, the symptoms afterward? How we can lessen, reduce, completely eradicate the symptoms after the shot?
Right. So let's just do the timeline again. So when you go into the point of care, into the medical station, you got the vaccine. Now, at the point you get the vaccine, again, just in the interest of full disclosure, there's a small percentage of people, very small, that could get a potentially allergic reaction. Okay? That's the first thing we should know. Now, the people are giving you the vaccine, the healthcare workers, the providers are aware of that. They will monitor you. They have medications to give you in case that happens. So that's how they'll do it. Now, you reach home a few hours after, about 10 hours after, the cells in the muscle where you got the shot start producing antibodies because they recognize there's an intruder, which is the spike protein. The spike protein start to be produced, and the antibodies start to be produced towards it. Now, when your immune cells notice that there is an intruder, they start sending messages to one another using different chemicals. Now, these chemicals are what give you a little fever, a little fatigue. I don't want you to worry too much about that. That shouldn't last more than 2 to 3 days. Now, to preempt that, you could take a little bit of Panadol, preferably after the vaccine, not before the vaccine. After the vaccine, you take a little bit of Panadol or Tylenol or whatever you have, and you do rest and you do fluids, and that should go away. Now, if after day 5 or day 7, after having the vaccine, you start feeling symptoms, now that you have to call a hotline and make sure you don't have a complication. But to answer your question, a little bit of Panadol, just after you had the vaccine. And if you feel tired, go home and rest. I don't want you to worry about that initial reaction too much. It's expected, And that's because of the immune cells communicating with each other, telling them that there's an intruder around and to look out for this particular intruder.
Somebody told me that a full stomach about half an hour before the vaccine can help lessen symptoms.
A full stomach. Well, I mean, if you go in with a full stomach, probably could help you. You have a little bit more energy. You feel less tired. But yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? Senator Sinclair, Dr. Beggs?
Dr. Beggs will go and then I will go.
Yeah, well, for me, I want to say that we shouldn't have too much unrealistic expectations of the vaccine. People, callers are still saying the vaccine doesn't work. That's not true. The vaccine works, but we have too much unrealistic expectations. I mean, if somebody was to tell me that there's going to be a pandemic coming and people are going to be dying, over 4 million people already died, and you can take a vaccine and you 90-something% sure you're not going to die or you're not going to get severe illness, I'll say I'll take that. You know, so the vaccine does work. Now the other thing is we have to prepare ourselves for what life would look in the future, because it may be that life may not be not having cases. You're probably going to still have cases floating around. But the main point is how we're going to, as a society, we've got to decide how we're going to prepare people, prevent people from dying and from overloading the hospital system. So that's one thing we would think about. And the other thing I'll do is I'll encourage people to try, if you have other medical conditions, try and make sure these things are stable and you have them under control. Because if you catch COVID, these things could worsen your prognosis, could make it a worse outcome for you. So try and take good care of yourself, take care of your other conditions, and eat healthy, exercise, maintain an ideal weight. That's how you'll try to keep yourself healthy. If you want to take other stuff to boost your immune system, fine, be careful. Watch out for interactions with your medications and watch out for side effects. The other thing is wear your mask and do your good public health measures. And if you think you're sick and you have a coming down with a cold or a virus or something like that, try and stay away from others and call the hotline that Dr. Charles and the other COVID committee have set up for you. See how you could get a test and see how you could get some medical attention. And I close with that. Again, I thank you and thank the Senator for what you're doing, and thank you for inviting me to share the platform. I hope we're able to share some perspectives with your audience, all your audience, and we can learn together how to live with this stuff, because it looks like we're in for a long ride with this. And as usual, I want to say good morning to Laddie.
Yeah, so I close quickly. I know Blossom is just about other time. I want to thank gracefully Dr. Beggs to bring really this expert knowledge to share with my constituents, because that is not my specialization. So I need help. So I thank you so much, Dr. Beggs, for bringing that knowledge to my constituents and to the general public. That what is good. I want to at the same time, express my deep sympathy for those who have passed specifically due to COVID. And I trust that we don't have to be having more sympathies going out on this matter. I want to tell the farmers, the fisher folks, you will be hearing from me again very shortly, because there are many other things that we are working on in the background, specifically as it relates to these specific trying times. The different WhatsApp groups and so on, you know how to reach me, the different folks, and I'll be getting out to you. And of course, maybe if we need to come back before the month is up based on emerging issues, we'll definitely do that. We should have also Parliament very soon, now that we had the Law House meeting last Friday. So I would also keep you posted in terms of what is on my agenda taken forward for the Parliament in the next sitting. So have a good one, and let's stay safe and fight this deadly virus
together.
Thank you, Blossom.
Thank you very much, Senator St. Clair. Dr. Beggs, appreciate you both, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing the information. Thank you, and continue to stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Farmer and Fisherfolk representative in the Senate, Senator Roderick St. Clair, and medical practitioner Dr. Donald Beggs. We thank both of them for being our guests this morning, sharing some pertinent information. I know there are questions that I haven't gotten to yet, but there are some questions on the WhatsApp. Some people are asking about if you have this virus or disease, if you should still take the vaccine. As the health professionals have cautioned and warned, if you are suffering from another virus, be it diabetes, high blood pressure, somebody asked about arthritis and eye infection, consult your personal doctors and they would best be able to tell you. They are the ones who are aware of the seriousness of your condition and what can take place if you get vaccinated and so on and so forth. So consult your personal doctors, whatever your illness, your sickness may be, and they would be better able to tell you what should take place in terms of you getting vaccinated. So the person inquiring about the high blood pressure and asthma, please check with your personal doctor. That's the end of my time for today. I've already stolen 4 minutes from Mid-Morning Buzz. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. Stay safe. Hand sanitizers, masks, wash your hands with soap and water, and try your very best to stay as COVID-free as possible. Social distancing works a million. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow, God willing.